Lord High Fixer, that's right. All right. She packed my bags last night, free flight. 0 hour, 9 a.m. And I'm gonna be high as a kite by then. I miss her so much, I miss my wife. It's lonely out in space on such a tireless flight. And I think I'm gonna be a long, long time till touchdown rings me around and I'm too fine. Not a man to think I am, I know. I'm a rockin' man, burning out his fuse I've ever known. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round and I get too fine. Not the man to think I am at home. Oh, no. I'm a rockin' man. Burning out his fuse I've ever known. Mars ain't the kind of place to raise your kids. In fact, it's cold as hell.
There will be no sleep tonight. The wild shouts and frantic drumming will see to that.
Science I don't understand. It's just my job 5 days a week. Rocket man, rocket man. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me around and I get too fine. Another man to think I am, I know. But no. I'm a rocket man, nice rocket man, burning out his fuse I've ever known. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Touchdown brings me around and I get too fine. Another man to think I am, I know. But no. I'm a rocket man, burning out his fuse I've ever known. This is the way. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Oh, no way.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Dude, yes. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. There you go for Lord High Fixer. Lord High Fixer, you stream rocket launches? Like real rocket launchers, or like the ones that you like, the testers model kits that you build and hit the button and they shoot?
Probably like the Dragon that just came back from the space station, I bet.
Oh, right? Real ones.
Real ones.
Dig that, dude. Yeah. So your show is like rocket launches.
My show is indeed rocket launches. Evening, everybody. So, been watching the weather for about 2 hours. Real rocket launches. So you can see above me, and we're gonna go to the weather here real quick.
I got another
What up, Gilly?
mission for you if you're ready.
We're gonna go to the weather here real quick, because it is the big thing. So this is currently, and you'll see this this boundary moving in on the Cape. I think it's gonna scrub them. I don't think that that front that's currently just crossing the west coast of Florida is going to cooperate. The clouds are nasty. I'm surprised SpaceX moved forward. They say they're gonna count it down all the way to 60 seconds, and I'm super surprised that they made that decision. They scrubbed Starlink this morning way early. Like, I had an alarm set for about an hour beforehand, and they never even got to the go no go poll. They decided to not even proceed with fueling. So tonight they are fueling. The kerosene and LOX got underway at about 6:44 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. When we get to stage 2 fueling, we'll talk about that too. And when SpaceX goes live, right now they say they're going live at 7:20, which is funny for a 7:18 launch, but we'll see. So, what this launch is SAOCOM 1B. It is a satellite that is it's a part of a paired constellation, and it's on behalf of Argentina, and it will do what it says up there. It will take hydrology, land observation, and it will also work jointly with an Italian system that's going to provide emergency management information on X-band. X-band is that over there? That's my desk, isn't it? Nope, that's the fuzzy dice. X-band is the frequency range that I used to work in whenever I was in the Air Force. Yeah, they're gonna be there. Whatever. I'll fix those another day. So launch is currently scheduled for 9:18 and some change. This is an interesting launch simply from the standpoint that it is the first South Pole trajectory launch from Kennedy Space Center since 1969. And the reason for that is Vandenberg, right? Vandenberg is where all polar launches have gone from the United States since then. But last year, when there were wildfires out there, NASA started, what frequency range is S-band? 7.25, 7.75 transmit, 7.9 to 8.4 gigahertz receive. Don't ask me why I still have all that memorized. Oh, it's still 40%. I think it's less than that. But they decided it.
At home in wild places, she is a stalwart survivor and a strict instructor.
They decided at about 6:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That was their go, no-go poll for fueling. And the weather was red then. It is still red. There is a debris cloud rule that's in violation. I'm sure the lightning rule is going to go into violation. If we hit the lightning rule within, what are we at? Within this time. If we hit the lightning rule at any point now, because it's a 30-minute clearance for the rule, the launch will scrub. We'll see. They decided that there's no field mill in violation. There's no lightning in violation. It's just clouds right now. And the anvil cloud rule is clear, so it's just this debris cloud rule. So we'll see. Yep, it's probably the exact same reason. It was everyday life for me for so long. I needed to understand the translate and everything off the top of my head without using a calculator. So, again, this is a South Pole launch from Kennedy. And again, back to what I was saying, is they have always done these from Vandenberg. But when the wildfires hit last year, they started to evaluate other possibilities. And Kennedy is the next best NASA pad to do so. So what they will do is they'll actually fly south along the east coast of the Florida Peninsula around the landmass so that they never fly over the ground. And the reason this is okay for SpaceX, and this is a thing, because the rocket will fly back. They don't have to worry about the rocket just being discarded and then hitting something on the ground due to wind. The rocket has positive control the whole way back to the ground, and if they should not have a good trajectory back to the ground, they have an automated guidance system that can put it out to sea. So that's why they're comfortable with allowing SpaceX to launch from Kennedy on a South Pole trajectory. It doesn't happen. It hasn't happened in decades. It hasn't happened in my lifetime from Kennedy. So if you live along the Florida coast, on the East Coast, and this thing launches tonight, go look outside. You're going to see it. But beyond that, it is just a constellation pair member that is going to do basic hydrology, land observation, and it will do emergency management communications. So, going to keep my eye on status board here because there's just so much going on. This is booster, let's see, This is booster 105.9.4. It previously flew CRS-19, CRS-20, and Starlink 8. There is no boat recovery. This will be a Kennedy Space Center pad landing for the Stage 1 booster if it fires. And then there will be fairing recovery by Miss Tree and Miss Chief out in the Atlantic. So this is also Slick 40, not Space Launch Pad or Space Launch Center 39A, which is where they tend to launch from. But they had Starlink up on that pad this morning, and again that launch scrubbed due to weather. So I'm super surprised. Like me and Manny and Dustin, I think a few others were watching this, were just like, I don't know, and then boom, there it is. They decided to go. So it's still red. We'll keep our eye on the weather. For those of you that were keeping up with, let's see. Yep. Let me refresh this so I can get, let's get SpaceX's mission audio up to, we can listen into them a little bit. And to let them watch, I'm going to drag them over here. And we'll turn them up so I can hear them. So SpaceX control is now coming through your headphones. If it gets too loud, let me know. Generally, we have to turn it down after we've been playing games for a while. For those of you that are watching Delta IV Heavy, it was supposed to launch Thursday, and it didn't because there was a hydraulics problem. It was supposed to launch Friday night, Saturday morning, and it didn't. And it actually did something that doesn't happen very often. Let me see if I can find that for you guys. Yeah, here we go. Let's go big screen here. So the Delta IV Heavy has 3 stacks. It's like Falcon Heavy. It's 3 rockets taped together pretty much. And what happened is they had a ground system abort after the first engine ignited. So let's go over there and have a look at it while we're waiting for SpaceX to come back with an update here. So this is what happened early Saturday morning.
Roll for ignition.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
Lit.
3, 2,
And then it shut down.
and liftoff.
Nope. He said liftoff because he wasn't looking at it. He was looking at the countdown.
And stand by. We've obviously had a hot fire abort.
Yep. It immediately started venting its fuel at the top again. But that first, it launches in down the line. So the right engine, as it faces the slick pad, lit. And then the ground system said nope, and it stopped. So what happens now is actually good for us if we want to watch Delta IV Heavy take off, because the launch time keeps slipping further and further towards prime time. It actually slipped an hour between Thursday night, Friday morning, and Friday night, Saturday morning. So there's a week recycle on this now. They've taken the rocket off the pad, and they've gone and put it. Well, they don't take it off the pad. You see, ULA has that nice building you can see right there. It actually will come up to the rocket, and then they can just work on the rocket on the pad.
Verifies MECO confirm.
So they will take a week and basically reassess everything in the vehicle, and then determine if when they're going to move forward. SAOCOM 1B spacecraft is now on its own internal power in prep for liftoff. So let's get back off of this, and let's go back over and pay attention to SpaceX here. Still listening to their mission control. Yeah, it does. I mean, they're only counting that one 4 more Delta Heavies that will ever fly. It's the first time that's ever happened with a Delta IV Heavy, and the Delta IV system has a 100% reliability rate. So I'm glad I didn't stay up to see it. It was really interesting to see the next morning. So we'll come back over, wait for SpaceX to go live. There is also a launch tonight if you are going to stay up. Unfortunately, I cannot. For those of you that remember, we had Rocket Lab's last mission, which was called Pixar, didn't happen. It was putting a bunch of visual instrumentation, a lot of cameras into orbit. It failed. It's confirmed now that the electronics, it did exactly what we thought it did during the launch. It failed on the battery swap out, electrical component failed, and thrust was lost to the S2, and they lost that payload. So their return to flight is tonight at 11 p.m. and some change. They do have a customer on board, and they've called the mission, "I can't believe it's not optical." I believe that's funny. That's good that they have a sense of humor. But they are planning to launch, and I believe it's a Wallops launch tonight from Virginia, not from New Zealand. So if you're going to be up, Rocket Lab is their Twitter account. You can easily find their launch stream when they go live. I unfortunately have to work in the morning. That's just a little bit too late. If it had been yesterday, definitely would have stayed up for it. But we're waiting for additional information from SpaceX. They've not gone live on their web channel yet, and the way this launch will work is almost like every other launch you've ever really watched with a Falcon 9. It's going to take off, S1's going to land. The payload will deploy about 11 minutes into the flight. There will be an S2 burn about the same time that the S1 lands back at the pads. A little bit different trajectory, but it's pretty standard fare for a Falcon 9 Block 5 launch. So it's a single payload. There's no ride share on board. Again, I'm watching. We're all watching the weather, and the range is still red, so we'll see. But they just went live, so here we go. So if you'd like to see a picture of SAOCOM 1B, this is what it looks like. Pretty big. That is it deployed. I keep looking over because I have all my stats information off to my right hand side. T-minus 20 minutes. Countdown confirmed to continue to be ticking. SAOCOM 1B confirmed on internal power. Still red on the range. We will see. It is the twin of SAOCOM 1A, which we watched launch earlier this year. So T-minus 14 minutes and 30 seconds until launch. Should the weather go green. It is an instantaneous launch window tonight, which means it must launch at the exact time they say it's going to launch. If there's a slip or a hold of any kind, it will cancel the launch. It must go at the precise moment they intend to launch it. At least that's what SpaceX has said so far. They haven't said there's any sort of window here. So it'll be a 7/18 launch or bust. So thanks for hanging out tonight, everybody. It's been a while since we got to see a rocket launch. It was supposed to be a busy July and August, and weather and Vega and lots of stuff just didn't cooperate. So if that is loud compared to me, let me know, and I will turn them down. You need to see that there's a Falcon Heavy launch scheduled in 2021. It's super quiet. How about that?
Good evening. It's Sunday, August
Compare their
30th,
voice to my
we're here at
voice.
SpaceX headquarters
All right,
in
good.
Hawthorne, California. You're looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket as it awaits its
So
7:18
we're about
PM Eastern Time
20
launch
seconds ahead of
from
them.
Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. My name is Michael Andrews, and I'm a supply chain supervisor here at SpaceX. For tonight's mission, we'll be placing the SAOCOM 1B
Oh, we're still ahead of them
observation
by a
satellite
bunch.
into a low-Earth sun-synchronous orbit for the National Commission of Space Activities of Argentina, known as CONAI. Now, it's the second
Still
and
ahead of
final
them.
satellite
Okay.
of our SAOCOM constellation. If you recall, SpaceX launched the first satellite, SAOCOM 1A, back in October 2018 from Vandenberg Air Force Base in
Now we're behind
Florida.
them by
The satellite's main goal is to gather soil moisture information. The data provided by SAOCOM helps increase productivity and competitiveness of sectors like agriculture by generating, for
1 second
example,
off.
risk maps that can help control crop diseases, by implementing efficient fertilizer systems, and for early flood warnings. The two
This is a
SAOCOM
green
satellites
screen.
will work in partnership
Ruled
with
off.
You will endure this
If you're
loss
interested in the full effect, here you
and
go.
learn from
The
it.
satellites will work together to provide Earth imaging. Each SAOCOM satellite can acquire about 225 images every day.
See the weather up there in Kennedy tonight, not great. We are go from a vehicle perspective. We are not go from a
Now,
range
Planet IQ
perspective.
designs, builds, launches, and operates one of the most advanced constellations of radio occultation weather forecasting satellites. Radio occultation is a technology that measures and analyzes the signals generated by
So I'll get
GPS
myself
satellites
out of the
to
way of
determine
this
weather
gentleman.
data, such as pressure, temperature, and water vapor. This data
That's
is used
not
in
what I
weather
wanted to do.
forecast models to greatly improve the accuracy
I wanted to
and
get the
extend
whole
range of
group.
those weather predictions. Now, tonight's launch is an especially exciting one.
There we go.
It's SpaceX's first polar orbit from the East Coast. A polar orbit is
First
one
time
where
anyone's
satellites
fired
pass
a
above
polar
the
orbit
North
from
and
the East
South
Coast in a
poles as
long, long
opposed to the
time.
equator. This is the first polar trajectory since the late 1960s flown out of Cape Canaveral. SpaceX worked closely with the Air Force and the FAA to create a trajectory.
Those videos that are in
necessary
there are
safety
from the
requirements
community
for flight.
in that other scene.
Falcon 9's autonomous flight termination system, its exceptional reliability, and its improved performance over heritage launch vehicles is a key factor in why
It's
SpaceX
the
is able to meet
automated
the
abort
performance
system
safety
for
challenges of launching this
Falcon
polar
9.
mission safely
That is
from
the
Cape,
big
while
reason
still
why they're
delivering
doing a
payloads
South
to its
Pole
desired orbit.
trajectory tonight.
Due to the flight path tonight, people along the eastern coast of Florida, including Miami, may be able to see Falcon 9 as it launches to space.
T-minus
as
12.
well as her second stage burn following stage separation, and maybe even the first stage boost back burn as it makes its way back to Earth for landing. And because of the time of the day of launch, about
Take the
30
bar down
minutes
when we get
before
close.
sunset, we might get nice illuminations of the contrails.
Yeah, that'd be
with clouds
great.
underneath. Now let's take a look at
If
Falcon 9
OBS
out
could
on the pad
add an
again.
undo feature, that'd be awesome.
Good evening. My name is Andy Tran, and I'm a production supervisor here at SpaceX. We're looking at a live view of Falcon 9.
I feel like I should be not blocking the frickin'
launch vehicle as it sits at Cape Canaveral.
Like I should be sitting like right here above this guy.
The vehicle is the first stage. Its objective is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's
Bap off
atmosphere
represent.
and
Yep.
then separate from the rest of the rocket. For today's mission, it's going to be the 4th flight for this particular first stage booster.
Still no
This is
indication
supported
that
two
the
cargo
debris
respawn
cloud
missions,
rule has gone
CRS
green.
19 and 20, as well as
Again,
our 9th
the launch director for
mission
SpaceX
this
says they
year.
are going to count down to
This
T-minus
mission,
60
we are gonna be
seconds
attempting to recover
before
this
they
booster,
abort
but
if
this
they have to
time
due to
back at
weather.
land on landing zone 1. Now, after the first stage separates, the second stage will then carry the SAOCOM 1B and our 2 rideshare satellites to a sun.
Oh, there are
synchronous
2 other
orbit.
satellites on board.
Sun synchronous orbits travel over the Earth's poles as the
I was
planet rotates
incorrect.
underneath.
I read everywhere
The satellite
that it was just the
passing over
one.
a particular section of the Earth at the same time each day. This type of orbit also provides a constant amount of sunlight, making them especially good for imaging satellites like the ones we have on board tonight. At the top of the rocket, you'll notice a large nose cone. This is called the satellite fairing. It's a composite structure and protects the rocket from the forces of ascent. and
Final
also
setup for the
houses our
ignition
payload.
system has started.
Once the vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere, the fairing will separate to expose the satellites into space.
Did they scrub that hop test this morning? Man, I don't stare at Boca Chica. I heard the answer to that is yes through Manny, but I can't stare at them play around with the hopper. When they have a rocket ready to go, I'll be more interested in what's going on down there. Hydraulics in first and second stage Merlin engines are now being activated for the steering system. Are they just hoping for one open cloud and they shoot up for it? Yeah, that along with other things, Dustin. They can't have any lightning connected to a cloud that's visible within 5 nautical miles. They can't have a lightning strike within 5 nautical miles. That will instantly scrub us. They can have no precipitation at the pad. There's a lot of different rules that go into the range weather readiness. Obviously, the field mill rule, which is the local static potential that is on the ground. It was high earlier. It's lowered back down now. There's a lot of little different things, but right now the only thing that is red is the debris cloud rule.
Tomorrow, same time, pending range acceptance. In terms of fuel, Falcon 9 began loading propellants at T-minus 35 minutes, and that process is still currently underway. Falcon 9 uses a refined form of kerosene called RP1, Rocket Propellant 1, for its fuel, and super.
It's the most original name ever. You know what they call the refined fuel that goes into jets? JP1.
RP1 is nearly fully loaded on the first stage, about 36,000 gallons.
Fighter jets.
And the second stage is fully fueled at about 9,600 gallons. Liquid oxygen, though, it's still loading on both stages.
Yeah, I'm not taking away from anybody who watches the hops, by the way. If that is your thing, do it. It's all day staring. SpaceX provides no guidance on the hops, right? There are people who are out there basically shooting over the fence with a camera. And SpaceX is not doing this for that, right? They're like, hey, come watch our hop test. So you have no idea when it's going to happen. And those guys sit out there for like 10 hours a day watching and talking about it. I'm like, okay, I'll catch the YouTube video on that one.
This helps us avoid any kind of thermal shocks to the system.
When they put together the Super Heavy, when they actually have a bigger rocket,
finally,
and they put a stack out there, and they're actually going to do something with it besides just a 150-meter hop, I will be far more interested. But right now, it's one engine. It's not even integrating the number of engines that are going to be on this thing. So it's ways off from being usable tech, and I can't... It's like watching someone, you know, do alpha work on software right now. Not my jam. I'd much rather follow, hey, what's going on at Space Station, because that's actual operable science right now. By the way, Crew 1, end of October. I did post a date in Discord. When we get closer, we'll nail that down. But that is booked now. And shortly after they get up there, existing crew will come down.
And it does have a real chance of doing that again for this mission. There are a lot of storm cells being generated in
Three valves leading into the first stage engines are open. The LOX is flowing into the engines to start to condition the turbopumps.
All systems continue to be go for a liftoff at 7:18 p.m. Eastern Time.
SLS launched next year. November 2021, SLS really might probably launch.
The government of Argentina's National Civilian Space Agency.
We'll see, NASA. They also say they need, what, a 40%, 30% increase in funding to make that happen, which they're not going to get.
Or SAR to monitor the Earth. As we mentioned earlier in the webcast, SpaceX launched the first of these satellites, SAOCOM 1A, in the fall of 2018.
Two in the box, ready to go. We be fast and
What up, Permanoob? Make sure you pay your friend tax. Actually, let me turn that overlay off real quick. There we go. First stage RP1 kerosene tank is full. T-minus 6 minutes, 9 seconds. Range is still red. Unless someone has failed to alert a bunch of people. It's a big, big satellite. For a single state or for a single rocket, it's not a heavy launch. It's a pretty big bird. Falcon 9 prop tanks being pressurized. Getting ready for the strong back retract. See what the weather says. I didn't make the video. While they're doing this, let me do one thing. I'm gonna get out of full screen. Let me drag this over here and go back to full screen. No chatter on the public audio at all from SpaceX. T-minus 4 minutes, 10 seconds. And they're gonna count down to minus 60 seconds. Strong back retract has started.
Remember to clonk that follow button.
Any lightning strike within the next 4 minutes will also kill it. See if it launches. But I said to Dustin and Manny earlier, if I was a betting man, I would not have bet this thing flew tonight. But we shall see.
We're currently less than 4 minutes from liftoff. Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. The vehicle remains in good health.
Talk to us about a Sans
but
rocket.
The weather is actually now go. The status is
wow, they just went green.
In terms of fuel, the
Yep.
first and second stages are now fully fueled.
Range just went green.
Loading will continue for the next few minutes. And also, one thing you'll hear 1 minute before liftoff, you'll hear the announcement that Falcon 9 is in startup mode. This means that the rocket's own internal computers are now autonomously controlling the launch countdown. The SAOCOM 1B payload continues to be healthy.
The fog machine, as Permanent describes it, is liquid oxygen under high pressure condensing off the vehicle when it's very
As a
normal.
reminder, if we don't launch today, we do have that backup opportunity tomorrow, pending range acceptance at 7:19 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, there's also a 40% chance of favorable weather tomorrow night too.
Before launch, let's listen in to the final countdown.
Self-destruct system on the rocket is armed. Liquid oxygen topping is terminating. Yep, there it is. Weather is now confirmed. Go for launch from the range operator. Nope, it is not a payload evade for ISS Perm, as we talked about a few times. This is SAOCOM 1B. This is part of a paired constellation satellite that will do some hydrology and land observation, as well as participate in a larger network for emergency management communications.
All right, our 9 Merlin engines on the first stage are chilled. They're ready for flight. The LOX loading will
Remember,
complete on that second stage.
it depends on how they're going to do this, but usually it's between T+7, T+9 for that booster landing. T+11 is payload separation. Just remember in the chat, if there's kids watching, we'd like to keep it a little bit more G.
Stage 2 LOX close out.
I mean, as our LOX is fully loaded and it's topped off, you'll start seeing
T-minus 135. We'll know in about 30 seconds if they're going to proceed past that point and get ready to fire this thing. They are our kids watching. No worries, Perm. We're about a second ahead of them on our clock here. T-minus 1 minute. They did not scrub.
Startup.
All right, we have entered startup mode. Falcon 9 has taken over the remainder of the countdown. We're just waiting for the go for launch callouts.
Stage 2 press for flight. LD go for
Pressurization of stage 2 is good for flight. The range is green, man. It went green about 90 seconds ago.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Well.
T-minus 15 seconds.
I would not have bet this thing flew today. Holy crap.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And
There she
liftoff
goes.
of Falcon's first East Coast polar launch, Hola, Argentina.
Speed 165 kilometers and climbing. There she goes into the clouds. .400 kilometers per hour at 1.4 kilometers aloft. You're going to see or hear call-outs about the engines throttling down as they approach what's called maximum dynamic pressure, or max Q, the maximum aerodynamic effects on the vehicle as it flies and approaches supersonic.
To prepare for maximum Q, that's the point of
It is pretty through those clouds, man.
At 1 minute 12 seconds.
You did, Arky. T plus 55 seconds, 1,060 kilometers aloft, 8 kilometers downrange. There she goes.
supersonic.
There are 9 engines on the bottom of the Falcon 9. That's what you see the heat plumes coming off there right now.
Heard it. We've reached max Q.
Max Q.
At this point, the loads in the vehicle.
They will start to throttle the engines back up.
The gets thinner. We're now able to throttle those Merlin engines back up, and at its maximum power, like right now, the vehicle consumes more than 700 gallons of fuel per second.
Jeez.
All is looking good with our first stage's trajectory. The next couple events,
T plus
they're 5
one.
events, one after another. First, our main engine
40.
kicks
They're
off.
2,800
On
kilometers
the stage,
aloft,
the stages
or
will
at
separate.
2,800 kilometers speed,
Will then flip
30
around
kilometers aloft.
to begin its landing attempt. The second stage is
Again, this is a.
These pandas are here to
What's up, Doc?
start 1. The first stage's boost back burn will start. It's one of 3 burns. To help
This is a
us
landing back at Kennedy Space Center, not on Of Course I Still Love You or Just Read the Instructions. She is burning.
And this is that first polar orbit. If the
First
clouds, you can see
polar
through the
orbit
clouds here, it's your
from
CC
Kennedy Space Center since
you haven't
1969.
seen from Falcon 9 over Florida.
Coming up on main engine cutoff.
And we have Miko.
Stage separation confirmed.
There is stage sep. You're going to see that secondary engine fire up.
And ignition.
There she goes. You see the RCS firing on the stage 1 on your right-hand side as she falls away. She's doing a pitch-over maneuver to get in position to land back at the pad, not the same pad.
It'll last about 40 seconds. And so you see it on the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side, you will see our...
Your left-hand side is your S1 coming back down to Earth. Your right-hand side is your stage 2, and I'll get myself out of the way here.
That boost back burn will end, and then we'll have our fairing deployment.
In T plus 11 or so is when we'll have payload deployment here. I'm shocked she launched.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
All right, one of those first landing burn, the boost back burns has successfully ended.
Fairing deploy coming up.
Fairing halves will now jettison to expose the satellites to space.
Grid fins deploy on the S1.
You see the first stage is already being a turnaround, and you can see the nitrogen from our attitude control system helping guide it back.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There goes the fairings. Payload's deployed to space.
There you see our two
You can see it.
fairing halves.
Not deployed, exposed. That's the word I was looking for. Exposed to space. There are 2 ships out there in the Atlantic that are going to try to catch those things. They have been reusing them.
It'll take us some time to get those to come back down. We'll keep you posted on the update.
So you're going to come up on your entry burn on your left-hand side here is your next major event.
13 seconds into flight.
And then the landing burn.
Looking great for tonight's mission. On the right-hand side of your screen is a view of our second stage, specifically its Merlin vacuum engine. We also call it MVAC engine for short. It's currently in the first of its 2 planned, first and only planned MVAC burns.
It did.
The first burn should last for about another 4 minutes. On the left-hand side of your screen is a view of our first stage looking downward. It's continuing to fall back towards Earth. The next milestone for the first stage is its first stage entry burn. Falcon 9 needs to execute an entry burn to slow itself down before hitting the dense parts of the atmosphere. Without this second burn, relying on the atmosphere alone to slow Falcon
This might be
down,
a nice
unnecessary strain on the rocket.
close to
That entry
sunset.
burn is coming up at T plus 6 minutes.
Well, part of the go no go consideration of the weather at the landing site too. The landing site pretty much the launch site here.
You may have also noticed that we've deployed
Back at
our
Kennedy.
4 hypersonic grid fins. Those are the honeycomb-like structures that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. They help to guide the first stage.
It'll be an on-land landing, not an on drone ship landing tonight. Yep. If they sep early like they did tonight, generally you got a better shot at this. It also has to do with the trajectory. If the trajectory is in a higher arc like it is for a South Pole launch, then the rocket is closer to Kennedy whenever they sep versus, we talked about this during Crew Dragon, when it's a shallower angle, then the rocket gets further down range and it's harder, it's impossible to recover the S1 back to Kennedy, so they need a drone ship. No, not on one of those cleverly named ships. What is that white object under the lander? That is a strobe. Oh, you mean off to the side there? That might actually be the ground. Off to the right? Oh, that we can't see anymore? I did see a piece of debris come off of the structure whenever they separated. I'm not sure what that was.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
So there it is, slowing down on the left-hand side.
And are currently slowing the first stage down before it hits those dense parts of the atmosphere.
And then the atmosphere itself will slow it down even more.
Second stage on the right-hand side of the screen is continuing to perform as expected.
So it's a longer second stage burn than normal for Falcon 9 to get to this altitude that they want to get to on this trajectory.
And as we mentioned earlier, we are going to be attempting to recover this.
That's definitely the ground.
Back at land on landing zone 1.
That's just a lot of clouds, man.
One more burn left. That is the landing burn. It begins just before we touch down and provides the booster with a soft descent before we land.
S2's still burning. It's going to burn for a while here. We'll take this all the way to deployment.
The landing legs will also be deploying. You might
Speed is now 12,600 kilometers per hour at 440 kilometers aloft. 300 kilometers past the Kármán line. Now you can see the ground coming up. You don't get to see this very often. It's always water, but there it is. There's Kennedy Space Center on your left-hand side coming up.
See the Cape getting closer and closer. What a cool view. The first stage is passing through the cloud layers right now.
There's your landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn startup.
Your exterior shot now on the right-hand side. Down the fuselage on your left. This landing gear are going to come out any second now.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Legs out. That's on the ground.
And you could not ask for a better landing than
That's
that.
pretty perfect given the cloud cover.
That is number 4 for this first stage booster and the 58th overall of an orbital class.
That was awesome. I love the pad landings. They're so much cooler to watch.
The second stage and our primary mission are still continuing and remain healthy. The next milestone for the second stage is
There will be a better camera angle later. They'll show one probably closer.
And that is coming up at T plus 10 minutes and 5 seconds.
So about a minute and a half from now, SAOCOM will cut out, and it'll coast to its deployment point.
Engine. And as we approach this period, we'll be listening very closely for 2 callouts.
Again, the reason they were able to pull out off this solar pole trajectory tonight, or south pole trajectory tonight, is 2 things. The automated guidance system that Falcon 9 has, especially with regards to boarding and guiding the rocket into the ocean should they need to, and the landing system, the ability to bring the rocket back safely down to the ground. Those 2 things are distinct in combination to SpaceX. That's why SpaceX was able to launch to a trajectory that no one's launched to from Kennedy for my entire life, plus, 8 years.
In just 12 minutes. Very, very fast.
She's approaching the speed you'd want to be at if you were just going to orbit.
Excellent!
So when we head towards the sun, it's a sun-synchronous orbit, which means it will always be exposed to the sun, and that is important for imaging satellites. They get constant light for their shots. I would say it's important for non-spy imaging satellites. But you're on trajectory for the sun now. It's going to orbit around the poles.
And we have SAOCOM.
There's your second engine cutoff. Second stage engine cutoff.
And the second stage Merlin vacuum engine has successfully had SAOCOM 1.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And
there you go. They got it where they want it.
We were waiting to hear on a good
nominal orbit insertion.
In just about 3 minutes, we will have the first of our 3 deployments. Until then, we are going to take a short break and be back around the T plus 13-minute mark for the deployment of the SAOCOM 1B satellite.
They're making tiny trajectory adjustments right there. What you see, that flakiness, that is the propellant as it comes out of the RCS system freezing. Yep, they're flipping it. That's what they're doing. They have to be. There's a lot of guidance adjustments being in there. They have to be turning the payload around. We'll stick with it till they get SAOCOM 1B deployed. They're on a good orbit. They just need to let their payloads go now. love their music. Let's take that take that down a little bit. So it's cool. We get to see a launch for the first time in a while. Should be a busy end of October, especially with Crew 1. That'll be another one of those fixed takes a day off days, assuming that the weather looks good. The first non-demonstration mission taking 4 crew members to the International Space Station. By the way, this past weekend, all of the crew members on International Space Station sealed themselves into the Russian side, so Cassidy had to bag himself up and go over there. They were testing for a leak, and it's a leak, and there's leaks in the ISS. That's not like, oh my goodness. A really small leak. So what they were doing is closing the ISS US side bulkhead by bulkhead to see if they saw a measurable decrease in the leak so they can detect which module it's in.
Acquisition of signal, Peru.
AOS and the Peru ground tracking station. Space photography is pretty awesome. I mean, obviously, they probably don't know yet. They're still analyzing it. It's the weekend still, and they're still in the Russian side. They haven't come back out yet. It's nothing to like. It's not like the space station is going to decompress or anything like that. There's basically been, there's been leaks in ISS since it launched and was assembled. That's why they're always sending up oxygen. It's not possible to seal it completely.
Well, welcome back from our mini coast phase. For those of you just joining us, we successfully...
Okay, I'll just stay here because I'll cover up this dude's hands.
...rocket from Cape Canaveral on a polar orbit trajectory.
No, Falcon Heavy Arabsat landed both boosters back at Kennedy last year. It's a really cool video, by the way, seeing both of them come down at the same time and land together. No.
10 seconds, 15 seconds.
They fire that again, it'll just shoot it off.
Final satellite in this
Is the ice buildup concerning? No, they'll just fire that off.
sister satellite, SAOCOM 1A.
Yeah, Falcon Heavy launches are cool. That's one of the coolest things is watching the boosters, the first stage boosters land in tandem. It's really cool. I'll pull that up for you, Omega, before we go. It's a really cool video.
SAOCOM separation confirmed.
There's SAOCOM away.
Successful deployment of that SAOCOM 1B.
14 minutes, 20 seconds from launch to successful insertion and deployment.
Goal is to gather soil moisture. It helps increase
It's impressive.
productivity and competitiveness of the agriculture sector. It helps us generate risk maps that can help.
All right, then I'll post it for you, Omega. I'll definitely find you the video posted Mission Control.
And provide early flood warnings. These two SAOCOM satellites
We have.
work together with Italy's Cosmos SkyMed constellation, and they work together by providing up to 225 Earth images per day.
Bye, big satellite.
We have 2 satellites left to deploy. We're going to go into another coast phase. This one will last about 45 minutes.
Oh, we're not going to stick around for that.
With an animation that shows where we are in that coast phase. We'll be back at...
We're not going to stick around for the 2 smaller payloads. Shiny. Because the sun's on it, like it's supposed to be.
We'll see you then.
Alright, so T plus 15 minutes and 13 seconds. Cool to see the launch get off the ground tonight. They have some time left to deploy the 2 other payloads that are associated with the launch, but SAOCOM 1B is deployed, and that's really cool. It's a very useful satellite. It's not Starlink. Don't get me going. That actually has an Earth science mission. So, with that said, let's have a quick look at what's coming up on the launch schedule. Don't forget tonight, if you want to see Rocket Lab, and I probably will watch it, but I just can't stream it because I can't stay on stream and not wound up that late. But coming up, we will go back over here and have a look. Once my mouse, there it is. So upcoming launches, not counting the one that just went off the ground here tonight. Obviously, there's Electron. I can't believe it's not optical tonight. 3:05 a.m. is now the mission time. I definitely can't stay up for that. Not 11 anymore. 3:05 a.m. Eastern time. There's a hop tomorrow. Yep, tomorrow. Starlink is rescheduled. This is no earlier than September 1st, 2020. They're not. That's 1:29 in the afternoon. It's unlikely, I think. they have to get range clearance, and I don't think they have it for that mission. So we'll see. That time's probably going to slip. Look at that. 1:51 in the morning, September 2nd. Vega, SMS POC. With the package on board for a customer, if you believe it or not. Delta 4 Heavy, we talked about that. It will be at least no earlier than a week from yesterday. So probably not until maybe on the weekend. Maybe we get to do it. We'll see. I really want to see Delta 4 Heavy take off one more time live. It'd be really cool to share it with you guys, especially if it slips into, say, like the 10 o'clock hour. We can all get together and watch it. That would be awesome. Momo, we're never going to watch those missions because the stream coverage is never dependable. Astra from Kodiak, they don't have live stream coverage, but that's they're launching from Alaska. I would encourage you to look into Astra and the Kodiak launch complex. There's some really cool stuff going on up there. This is a Russian mission to launch satellites. Electron STP-27RM. That is way later in September, and we're already into October. So that's what's coming up. The big thing on the list this week is, can we get to see Delta 4 Heavy take off? That would be awesome if we can. If we cannot, we will replay it somewhere, and we'll go from there. I appreciate everyone hanging with the weather today. I know that you all appreciate the nature of these launches at this point. If you're hanging out watching rocket launches, you know that the weather plays heavily into will there be a stream or not. I'm going to start I think what we did tonight will work with, I've kind of always gone early and then scrubbed. SpaceX has gotten pretty good about this whole 40 minutes prior to launch poll thing. And I think for SpaceX launches, we're going to stick with that because it worked tonight. They said go, I fired a weather stream up, and then we got on stream about 5 minutes later. Yeah, I'm super shocked they launched. Clear days, we know that they're good all day long. It says 90% chance we'll be on earlier. But when it's 40% chance like today, I think this worked well, even though it was only like an hour-long stream. So I'm going to have a look and see who's out there streaming so that we can pass you guys on to somebody deserving of some viewers. And I'm going to get myself kind of cleaned up and set to go. You know what? I'd have to take you to another rocket launch person. So, they got enough people. This dude, EJ's got 1,000 people watching him sit there and stare at this thing for the next 45 minutes. Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to have loose. Let's talk about it. Like, crewed missions are different. We'll definitely talk on crewed missions a whole lot longer, but for something like this, the satellite deployment, it's cool to see. It's cool to talk through the science. It's cool to say, wow, a solar trajectory, or I keep saying solar, a southern solar trajectory. Those are all awesome things. But thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will be back Wednesday night for more Darkest Dungeon. And then this Saturday, I think I'm going to play some Overcooked with Dustin in the morning on Saturday. And then I think we're going to have at least one more get the crew ready for XCOM, even though XCOM's not going to be till October. And then hopefully we are talking Delta 4 Heavy sometime this weekend. So enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope your week goes well for all of you, and that you stay safe and have enjoyed watching another rocket launch with all of us. Solar Station! All right, you guys have a good night. I will talk to you all later. I didn't log in, so I have to do it this way.